I noticed something was wrong after my second flight. It had nothing to do with flying. I mean, I was in good physical condition. I passed my medical, so what the heck? Something's wrong with my shoulder. I can fix that easily. Turned out it's not an easy fix.
I had no idea what this was. And I think that maybe he didn't know exactly what it was either.
I just thought it was something small, like maybe give me a shot or a pill or something like that.
I never told anyone. Certainly none of my friends could know about it. I thought of my dad as being invincible, and I wanted other people to think of him as that way also.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keeping it a secret was my way of coping with it, I guess. In 1969, I was in Utah Boy State. Prior to that, I was going to be a chemist and blow things up. That was my goal in life. And I saw Neil Armstrong walk on the moon, and I said, seems like something else to do.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes.
I had scholarships to the University of Utah and Stanford. And I went back after that and thought about it, and I said, I want to go land on the moon, be an astronaut. Talked to my counselors at high school, and they convinced me that if I wanted to be an astronaut, which they said, no reason you can't be, your best chance of doing that is if you go to a military academy. We met in Hawaii. I was over there on a summer assignment for 30 days. Nancy and I met, and I convinced her that our first date was going to be a flight around the island.
I was scared to death. He said, you're just different. And I said, no, I'm Southern.
I had an assignment in Germany for 3 years. We had our first son over there. The light of my life.
6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start.
I knew the shuttle was under development because I read Aviation Week and Space Technology religiously.
And on the front cover of the magazine was the first flight of John Young and Bob Crippen. And he said, I'd like to fly that. The capabilities provided by that shuttle are awesome. You can have a Space Lab pressurized module in the back. You can have deployable payloads. You can have the capability of going outside the airlock and do spacewalks. Nobody else in the world can do it.
We have SRB ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of mission 51.
And liftoff. Liftoff.
I was doing a test flight at the time. Came back down and landed. They told me to give my home a call. Nancy had called. Said she saw it blow up.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
I just remember being in the living room and watching it on TV. And then it happened. And then I remember the phone ringing and my mom crying. And I think I remember my mom asking, do you still want to fly? And he said, of course. It was all a little bit unreal for me.
I just remember thinking how sad it was for the people and the families that occurred. The Challenger accident highlighted to them again that it's a dangerous business that I was going into. But it didn't change my mind about what I wanted to do. They decided to have another astronaut selection in 1987. 5,000 applicants each time, and they whittled it down to interviewing 20 people for every position they're going to have. A very tight selection process, and you never know how you're doing. I was a little naive about all this stuff, to be honest with you. Every time I take one of these hurdles, I think it's not going to happen. Every time you do something, you're wondering if it qualifies you or disqualifies you. I got interviewed in 84, didn't get selected. Got interviewed in 85 in the next class selection, didn't get selected. What did I have wrong? Was it my hair? You start looking at all those things. I was never discouraged from continuing to apply. Each time I got a little bit better, I think. Every time they called me and said I wasn't selected, they said, don't give up, you're right on the edge. By the time I did my fourth interview in 1990, they knew me pretty well. I wasn't a shoo-in, but I thought I had a good chance of making it.
23 new faces arrived at JSC today to begin training for the prestigious job of astronaut.
They are the cream of the crop in their fields. 2,000 applicants wanted to be in their shoes. The astronaut class of 1990 has a long list of impressive credentials, but for them, today is now the first day of school.
When you look at the qualifications of the other folks who got selected, I think I was lucky to be in that group. Everybody had their own separate skills.
Come from all different backgrounds. It's not a bunch of clones. We're not all the same.
These rookies will be called astronaut candidates for a year, and after that training period, they will become full astronauts, eligible to be scheduled for a future shuttle mission.
I got called in the office to go see Mr. Putty, who was the Flight Crew Operations Director. Got a mission for you. You want to accept it? And I said, yes. And he said, I haven't told you what it is yet. I said, I don't matter. I'm ready. And I was assigned to SES-53, which is an all-military crew doing a DoD launch.
11, 10, 9, 8, 7. We have a go for main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery on a 7-day mission for the Department of Defense.
I said a small prayer. I said, Lord, let something small go wrong that I can fix and become a hero, prove my worth. And when those solids ignited, I said, cancel that last request. 3 months after my landing, they called me into the office and said, we've got another mission for you. I go, this soon? Totally different mission operation.
0 and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, observing the changes of planet Earth.
It was a space radar lab, the first flight of that. And we imaged the surface of the Earth with specific locations with a digital radar.
Everyone wants to spend as much time looking out the window as possible. On STS-59, our job was to look out the window. Earth's magnificent, and the best times are at sunrise and sunset, where you see the sun just creeping above the horizon, and it all occurs in about 10 seconds. You get a color band of every color you can imagine. You get to see one of those every 90 minutes. Really beautiful. I noticed something was wrong after my second flight. It had nothing to do with flying. I'd noticed it before the flight, actually, but I just chalked it up to racquetball. It's just that my game abilities had decreased somewhat, and I noticed a trend over about a year. But I noticed that my right arm didn't swing naturally. It was just hanging there when I'd walk. I thought I'd hurt my shoulder in the racquetball game. So at my physical in October that year, passed all the exams, neurological exam and everything, and the doc said everything's okay. I said, what about my shoulder? It doesn't swing right. And he said, well, does it hurt? I said, no. When I said no, that set off some flare that I could tell in his eyes that something wasn't right. I mean, I was in good physical condition. I passed my medical, so what the heck? Something's wrong with my shoulder, and they can fix that easily. Turned out it's not an easy fix. But he then went and found the chief flight surgeon. He said, walk down the hall for me. Little did I know that walk down the hall was going to be serious as it was. Walked down the hall and he didn't see it swinging. So he said, now we're going to go downtown to a neurologist and see what's wrong with you. I said, what's wrong with me? I told him my shoulder. Get an orthopedic surgeon to look at my shoulder. And he says, no, there's something else out there. They told me there's something neurologically wrong, but they couldn't be sure of it. So I felt confident that whatever it was, they could fix. I'd never been sick. It kind of hit me as a shock when I had to go see a neurologist. For that first trip to see Dr. Jankovic, I wasn't worried about ending my space flight. I just thought it was something small, like maybe give me a shot or a pill or something like that. Well, the initial exam was the standard exam for neurology. You had to do tap, 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 finger to nose. And he'd move his hand, and I'd touch that and touch my nose.
We talked about different reasons why he might complain of shoulder pain, why he might have a little bit of tremor. He at that time also complained of smaller handwriting. And I suggested that one of the reasons could be the possibility of Parkinson's disease, but I want to be 100% sure.
So I went through about 6 months of diagnostics where they had to rule out everything else that could be. I was comforted when he said, we'll have to prove it with all these other tests. So I was holding out hope that it wasn't Parkinson's. So I went through lumbar punctures, CAT scans, MRIs.
We set up another appointment, at which time I finally revealed the diagnosis to him.
When he said I had Parkinson's disease, it meant nothing to me. And then what is that? What does that mean? He took the time to tell me that Parkinson's was a movement disorder and it was incurable.
I had no real idea that anything serious was going to come out of the appointment. We were all called down into the living room as a family, and we were going to have a family meeting. And this was the moment where I knew that something serious might be happening.
Got home that day and I told my wife. I told them I've conquered other things in life and I'm going to do this one too. We just decided we weren't going to give up. But we knew life was going to be a little different. It was hard telling them.
What I remember about the explanation was that he would start shaking, and the shaking would get worse. I took the cues from my dad. If he seemed worried, then I might have been worried, but he didn't seem worried at all.
Because I told him, I said, it doesn't really affect me right now. It may in the future. And my older boy, Richard, went and researched it on a computer and checked out what Parkinson's was.
Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disease that causes loss of dopamine-producing nerve cells in the brain. And that causes the typical symptoms of Parkinson, such as slowness of movement, tremor, stiffness of muscles, and slow shuffling gait.
I guess I worried more about the progression of the disease because I saw some flicks of people with advanced Parkinson's, and they didn't look good. After the Parkinson's disease acknowledgement, I wasn't sure they were going to ever fly me again. They basically put me on a watch. They didn't restrict me from flying. I was still flying T-38s and helicopters, but I wasn't spacecraft certified at that time. I knew that I had a progressive degenerative disease, but on the other hand, I had no reason to think that I wasn't still qualified for spaceflight. Look, I'm fully capable. I haven't got anything wrong with me. My right arm doesn't swing, but everything else is okay, and my right arm works fine. So I told that to the flight surgeon. He said, well, what do you want to do, Rich? I said, what do you mean? I want to fly again. He said, well, it may not be that easy.
Once an individual is diagnosed with a health condition, we have a process. Your medical case gets presented to the Aerospace Medicine Board, which is all the flight surgeons. These are the individuals who directly provide care to the astronaut. The biggest hurdle then is prove to all those physicians that you don't pose a risk to yourself. Then we also weigh how it affects the mission.
They ask tough questions, they may ask for more data, and then that group makes a decision, is this person safe to fly or not? With motor type issues like Rich has, we're also worried, can he perform the functions that are essential to the job? I wanted to get outside in my suit where it's just me and the plexiglass between the vacuum of space. It's just a great opportunity to go outside and be your own satellite. It was definitely a premier mission, first of 7 missions to Mir. And to get up there and dock with another spacecraft and do a spacewalk on it, that's the epitome of an astronaut's career. They knew that my right arm was not full capacity. They dreamed up a test that I was going to be doing glove fitness checks. And I'd go into there and operate a tensiometer with a new glove. Everybody thought it was a weird test, but something that NASA does all the time, weird tests. The idea was that if my strength decreased during the training flow, they had the capability of assigning another guy to do the EVA.
And after they watched me for, I guess, 5 or 6 months and saw that the ramp was very gradual, they assigned me to the third flight. So when the announcement came out, I was EV2 with Linda Godwin being EV1. Oh, I was elated.
I had a great time flying with him on STS-59, and when both he and Linda were assigned STS-76, I mean, you know, you just have this core of a crew that you just know you're so comfortable with. I just knew this was going to be a fantastic crew to go to space with.
What I was worried about most was that if it got out in the public that I had Parkinson's, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to have them and myself answer those difficult questions at a press conference. That would be the focus of the press conference. Why are you flying with Parkinson's disease? When the press conference should be focused on what's the mission doing and how you're going to do it.
I definitely knew that the diagnosis needed to be a secret.
They asked us not to tell anybody for about 3 years. They didn't want any media coverage. But Rich didn't want to tell anybody anyway.
Keeping it a secret was my way of coping with it, I guess.
I never told anyone. Certainly none of my friends could know about it, but I certainly remember having moments where the disease came up and I was in class and I just knew I need to stay quiet.
I didn't release the information other than people that I wanted to tell. And I felt obligated to tell the commander, although he didn't really need to know. And I was going to tell the rest of my crewmates, but he said I didn't need to tell them. So I said, okay, fine, make their life easier. They don't have to talk about it.
It was not an issue. It didn't need to be discussed, in my view. That was strictly Rich's call. I certainly wasn't going to encourage him to talk about it because I didn't think he needed to.
At the time of the launch, I'm sure the only people that knew about my disease was Kevin Chilton, my commander. And the flight surgeons, they all knew. Those people that needed to know to certify me for flight are the ones that knew.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Atlantis on the third Shuttle Mir
Facing Atlantis on the proper heading. Pretty good engine.
Once I got to orbit, I think of the second or third day I was up there that I noticed as I was trying to get to the food station, my hand had a slight tremor in it. And so I'd quickly take it back and do something else with it. At night, when I was getting ready for sleep, I'd just let it hang there, and it would actually shake a little bit. And I had to kind of hide that a little bit from the crew.
All I cared about was the crew's ability to perform. I mean, it was a team effort to do the rendezvous and docking, and everybody's pitching in and helping out.
Russians opened their side of the hatch. We followed our hatch after theirs, and there were just two beaming faces just looking at you with a big grin on their face.
To go into somebody else's spacecraft on orbit is a phenomenal experience.
Mir had been up there for 6 years, I think, by the time we got there. They had no way of taking broken components back, so if they break something, they just have to stack it on the walls. Bungee cords everywhere, and then the walls had narrowed down from about 8 feet diameter down to around 4 feet in diameter.
The way they operate is different, their combinations are different. But one thing's not different, and that's the desire to do everything right.
Rich, what's the purpose of the spacewalk?
Charles, there's 3 main purposes. The first purpose is to install 4 experiments on the exterior of the docking module, which is attached to the Mir core module. And then we're also going to evaluate some special tools and equipment for building the space station. And the third thing is we're going to bring back a camera, which was installed on the docking module for STS-74's docking mission.
And Rich, it just looks spectacular out there doing a spacewalk on the Atlantis Mir Space Complex. Absolutely beautiful.
Thanks, Dave. We're having a good time.
It's a really slow thing to watch. It's like watching paint dry. So the thrill kind of gets strung out over a long period of time. I was just full of pride for what he was doing.
I'd been out there about 2 hours before I recognized there was an Earth below us, because you get so focused on doing the mission on a tight timeline that I was clearing a path for Linda Godwin to go climb up on the docking module to install her experiment package. And a call came from the inside cabin. Ron Sega said, "Rich, turn your body to the left." When I turned my body to the left, I saw a frame between the solar ray of the mirror and the nose of the shuttle was the Earth's horizon at a sunrise. I don't know how long I looked at it, but it was beautiful. The next call came, "Get back to work."
One more to go. Doing great, doing great.
When I got finished the EVA, I came back, my hand was shaking a little bit. And a couple of the crew members saw it. So I'm not nervous, I just got a nervous condition.
Physical separation.
Copy physical separation.
When I came back down to Earth, the tremors went away. That gravity was an additional factor in keeping my tremors at bay. I realized that my next flight would probably be a long duration flight, and I'm not sure I would have been capable of doing that.
So I made the decision to leave after the third flight. My boys were getting ready for college, and it was time to think about their lives as opposed to mine. I had 3 flights in 3 years, and that's more than anybody can ask for. I hit the shuttle program at its peak. I haven't been shortchanged, that's for sure. So I felt pretty lucky. I just moved on to a different phase of life. I came to the decision to tell the public because my condition was becoming more visible. Instead of people wondering what was going on, I just came public with it. It was a relief that it went public. Felt a lot better about it, started talking about it more. And now I feel like I'm helping other people with Parkinson's.
A retired NASA astronaut is sharing a secret tonight, one he's kept for more than 15 years.
My experiences and the fact that I flew with Parkinson's disease means a lot to the folks out there that have Parkinson's.
Life doesn't end because you've got some disease. And I think that's the story there, is that I'm still fully functional. And I do give a lot of speeches now about Parkinson's. Life after Parkinson's diagnosis is not all that bad. There's always an answer around the corner. You just got to search for it. I look for solutions. That's the engineer in me. There's got to be some solution to this problem. Why can't they find it? You don't have to change the way you do things. You don't have to change the way you live. Don't give up your life just because you have Parkinson's disease.
I think going public about his Parkinson's disease helps Rich so much. I can see that he's really come out.
I hope my dad goes on tour. I would hope that he would become the rock star of Parkinson's.
My life goes on.
And I'm hoping that one day they'll find a cure. But to find a cure, they have to find a cause first, and they still don't know the cause. I got diagnosed at I was 42 years old, and 18 years later, I'm still fully functional.
I think getting diagnosed as early as I did was beneficial to my long-term health. And I really believe that's critical.
I was sad to be leaving this office. But on to the next phase of life.
If you let Parkinson's get the best of you, you'll be a miserable person. Even now, I don't feel limited. I look for the bright side on everything. When you're walking through life, you're going to have disappointments. They're going to happen. I've been very fortunate in my life to have the deviations off my path actually were beneficial to me.
Well, I'm very pleased with what you're doing. I think, we should stick with the same dose. You're staying active, right? Yeah. Exercising and doing all the right things, eating all the right things.
Yeah, Nancy keeps me on track for the food.
Yeah.
I've had a good life. Not many people have got a chance to do what I've done. So I'll share some stories, tell people how great it is to be an astronaut, and just keep them excited about the future of space. I want to get out there and help people. My legacy should be my path that I've had.
The shuttle's always going to be a reflection of what a great nation can do when it dares to be bold and commits to follow through. We're not ending the journey today, Mike. We're completing a chapter of a journey that will never end. You and the thousands of men and women who gave their hearts, souls, and their lives for the cause of exploration have rewritten history. Let's light this fire one more time, Mike, and witness this great nation at its best. The crew of Atlantis is ready for launch.
Go for main engine start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Roger, roll, Atlantis. Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis. The space shuttle spreads its wings one final time for the start of a sentimental journey into history. 24 seconds into the flight.